Good evening, BookTube. Hope you're all doing well. Today I've got a classic prepared for you today. Let's get right into it. This is Peter Pan by J.M. Barrie. This particular edition you can find in the classic section at most bookstores, this one being Barnes & Noble. This one was published by Union Square. It's the company. Big fan of this company because, number one, they're very inexpensive, and also just look at the cover art on these things. I have two other books by this Union Square. I'll show you right now. We got Meditations by Marcus Aurelius and Little Women by Louisa May Alcott. I've yet to read this one, to be honest. But yeah, go to your bookstore, you see like different printings of the same classics on there. Union Square usually gets me every time just for the artwork on the covers. There we go. So back to Peter Pan. This particular video I got planned for you today. It's not so much a review of the book itself, because I figure everyone's probably familiar with the story a little bit. You know, Captain Hook, Peter Pan, never flying to Neverland. So instead, this is going to be more of a discussion about why I wanted to read Peter Pan after all these years. And for that, you can thank one of my favorite podcasts called Empire, hosted by William Dalrymple and Anita Anand. These two people, they're journalists, historians from the UK. And like I said, they do weekly episodes, always about the topics of history. And a while ago, well, first I should mention that not only are this podcast Empire, not only are they one of my favorite podcasts, but according to my Spotify wrap up of 2024, they were my second favorite, right behind The Rest Is History and right before Conan O'Brien. A while ago, William and Anita did a series about pirates. Famous pirates, and of course, you can't talk about these famous pirates without talking about the famous works of fiction and characters for which they were the inspiration. And they had one episode about this guy named, this pirate named Newport. Honestly, this guy Newport was like secondary. The two of them, they opened up the episode talking about J.M. Barrie's life. Like his life was so interesting, it really took up the priority most of the time of the podcast itself, and the guy Newport became was a secondary. Yeah, and you'll understand why too, because like J.M. Barrie's life so full of like such tragic stories. And it's one of those things. Like you read the work first, and then you go back and you look at like an autobiography or a biography of the author, and you start seeing things like their past life, like, oh, well, that clearly was the inspiration for this, or this event in their lives influenced that. That was certainly the case with J.M. Barrie here in Peter Pan. Right off the bat, I should warn you that we're going to be talking about some very tragic events, and the tragic events that J.M. Barrie's life that clearly show themselves in Peter Pan here. Personally, after hearing these events, I'll never look at the story the same way again. So starting off, let's see, Peter Pan originally was published first in 1911. Originally, it was a play back in 1904. And the original title of the play and book was actually called Peter and Wendy. Very different take. Now, like once again, obviously, people aren't alive to tell the stories themselves, so you can just infer. After learning about Barrie's life, you can only infer things so much. But I think it's safe to say we see two tragic events in his life that influence both Peter and the main character Wendy. First off, a name like Wendy. Now, how many people out there who are familiar with Peter Pan thought that Wendy was just a nickname for the name like Gwendolyn or something? I certainly did. And the podcast hosts William and Anita, they thought so too. Turns out that's not the case. When J.M. Barrie was a young boy, he was like 5 years old, another 5-year-old girl that was a friend of his, she had a speech impediment, and he would like tease her, calling her a Fwendy Wendy. Like, Wendy. It's like Fwendy Wendy. Turns out this young girl, like she was 5 years old, she ended up dying before her 6th birthday. She had some kind of disease. And then, so that was the first tragic event in Barrie's life. And then, not too long after that, J.M. Barrie's older brother, he was about 11 or 12, he died tragically while he was ice skating. He fell, hit his head, and ended up dying from those wounds. And you can't help but make the connection there. First of all, you got the name Wendy, and his older brother. Like he died so young. You think Peter Pan. If you had to guess, you say, yeah, he's about the same age that the brother was when he died. And it's definitely can't help but infer that was the inspiration there, or at least the backstory behind these characters. Now let's talk a little about just the notion of Neverland itself. It's like these kids, they go to Neverland, and you don't grow old. You go to Neverland, you don't grow old. It's the oddest thing. You think about, hopefully you've never experienced this in your life too, but when someone dies, you're never going to know them past that age. And the younger they are, the more tragic it is. I hope you've never had to experience that. Yeah, if you're like J.M. Barrie's older brother and his friend, they'll always be children. Like they'll never get old. Like the brother, he'll always be a boy, just like Peter Pan. So in my mind was running wild while reading the story. I couldn't help but think, like, Neverland, like, are the children in the story dead? And I quickly ruled that out. That's not the case, because Neverland is a place you can travel to and from freely. But I couldn't help but wonder if, like a Neverland, there has to be some kind of a metaphor for the afterlife. He said, like, you're a young boy, you never grow old. In a place that could be a little metaphor for the afterlife. Like I said, a little children's story. You wouldn't think there would be such like deep and dark meaning behind some things. Anyway, enough tragedy. Like, I want to leave the end of this video on a couple good notes. So first of all, like I said, not only did I want to read this because of William and Anita's podcast episode, but I wanted to go out and buy a book for a very specific reason. It turns out, as part of J.M. Barrie's estate, sales from Peter Pan, now that was the book, I don't know if that applied to the future movies later on or whatever, but from J.M. Barrie's estate, sales of Peter Pan fund a children's hospital in London. And as a matter of fact, outside this hospital, there's actually a statue of Peter Pan. So when I heard that, I went right out to the bookstore and I immediately bought a copy, and it's proudly on my shelf in a little pile over here. And as a matter of fact, too, the podcast host of William, he mentioned that his son, when he was a child, he came down with some kind of flu, and he was actually a patient at this hospital. And luckily, say that the son's doing fine now. Like, I don't know how old his son is, but he's probably an adult, probably closer to my age now. So this was a long time ago. I'm happy to say William had nothing but great things to say about this hospital. One other little thing I had to point out too. It kind of comes out of place now, but I'll tell you a little thought I had while reading this. Like I said, originally this started off as a play in 1904, and there's a part in the book where, like, Peter, like, as I won't go into too many spoilers in case you're not familiar with the story, but at one point Peter needs help. He needs help with a bit of magic. He needs help, so Peter Pan looks up to the skies and he calls out to all the children. Like, he needs them to believe, and that will help. Their magic will help him with what he has to do. And I remember reading that in the book. It seems like kind of out of place and kind of awkward, but like I said, this was a play. I could easily picture the actor playing Peter Pan standing at the edge of the stage, calling out to the theater, and all the children shout back at him. Must be a fun experience if it ever comes to this stage one day. Could be fun. Could be a fun experience. Anyway, folks, I will leave you on that note. So I encourage all of you, go out, buy a Peter Pan, help the children, and you help a children's hospital in your own area as well. In the meantime, it is June on the Range time, and I'm quite engrossed by the assassination of Jesse James. I know it's kind of a transition, Peter Pan, Jesse James, but there we go. All some good reading. So, whatever reading events you're participating in, I look forward to seeing all of your videos down the line. Take care, everyone.